Hi there. Welcome to Alone but Not Lonely, the site for the single person learning to become comfortable with living alone, not necessarily by choice, but due to circumstances and a lack of viable selections. I am Selena, your host on this journey. Before we begin, please accept this as a disclaimer. I do not offer advice, I only offer suggestions. I offer suggestions so that the person listening can exercise his or her right to choose. What worked for me may not necessarily work for you. So, having said that, let's begin our journey. Today's journey is called In the Beginning. As I remember how I became comfortable with being alone without being lonely, I recall when I was married, my husband worked for a company that required its employees to rotate shifts every 2 weeks. That meant employees would work 2 weeks during the day, 2 weeks in the evening, and 2 weeks on the graveyard shift, and then they'd repeat all over again. By being newly married, living in a new town, and not knowing too many people or the lay of the town, I really wanted to explore. However, what I quickly found out was that every time I asked one of the new ladies or relatives of which I'd been introduced to either go out to lunch, dinner, or shopping, or to the beach with me, they just seemed to be busy or wanted me to wait an hour or two. So I guess after hearing that enough times, I had to muster up enough courage to learn to do these things with me, myself, and I. That was the beginning. It was strange. It was difficult. I remember the first restaurant I went to by myself. My ex husband and I had frequented it several times. This time, however, I entered the restaurant all by my lonesome. The hostess asked, "How many?" I whispered, "One." She questioned, "One?" Then followed with, "No one else is meeting you later?" Embarrassed and with my head hanging a little, I whispered again, "No, it's just me." As if feeling sorry for me, she said, "Follow me, please." Dutifully, I followed her. Once at the table, the waitress put me through a similar routine. I ordered my iced tea, salad, steak, and baked potato. After it arrived, I just sat there eating, all alone, one forkful at a time. I don't recall having looked up or making eye contact with anyone. I just ate, asked for the check, then left the restaurant. Whew! Once I got outside, I realized I had survived. I was used to always having someone with whom to do everything. If I didn't have anyone to do something with, I simply didn't do it. I was only 22 years old at the time. But that day, I remember thinking, wow, I didn't die. The floor didn't open up and swallow me whole. I did it. I did it. It was the first time I'd eaten in a public place all alone. I'm not sure what happened, but it was around the third or fourth time of having to eat out alone that I decided to make a real game of it. After all, I did have to eat. I stopped feeling sorry for myself because I was alone. The truth was, in the beginning at least, I did have a significant other who was just working on another shift. Whenever he was home, we did go out together and have dinner. As I sat alone in the restaurant, I began to look at other couples and families. After all, I was used to doing this at Venice Beach in California. So I'd make up stories about the various people in the restaurants. This made it not only easier to eat out by myself, but it also made it a whole lot more fun. I totally stopped asking other people to go out with me. In fact, I make my rounds to various restaurants throughout the week, enjoying my dinners while also entertaining myself with stories about what could be going on in their lives. Some of the most interesting couples, of course, were those who ate without ever speaking to each other. You know what I mean. Fast forward to today. Now that my sons have grown up and they no longer need me for everything, I'm alone again. Sure, I've dated a few guys. I'll tell you about those adventures a little later on. However, still and to this day, I'm about to go to some of the most crowded restaurants, and I'm still able to enjoy a meal while being alone without being lonely. Believe me, you too can do it. Until next time, this is Selena, your host for Alone but Not Lonely.